Social media accounts showing graphic content from Gaza have gained popularity, while international news outlets are largely banned from the territory. Are the images of death and destruction helping to sway public opinion like we saw in the Vietnam War? Correspondent Daniel Kool joined us with more. Daniel, you reported that many Americans are turning to social media to get their information on the conflict in Gaza. What did you find?
Well, for the most part, folks find that what they're seeing on social media can be a little bit more trustworthy. A lot of that has to do with the fact that it seems to be coming from people that are more similar to them than, say, a broadcast journalist that they've never met.
Wait a second. The internet is more trustworthy than me and the people like me that do this? How so?
Well, social media offers this sense of a peer-to-peer connection. So you can start to build sort of one-sided relationships. A lot of the folks that I spoke to, it wasn't just that they were watching, death and destruction coming out of Gaza, but that they were following specific Instagram accounts, specific Twitter accounts. And they were sort of building, a sense of needing to keep track of individuals in Gaza. It started to feel significantly more personal. It wasn't just a war going on the other side of an ocean.
So then do they feel that traditional news media is failing them reporting the news in Gaza?
Especially among some of the younger folks that I talk to, there is sort of that sense that, larger legacy outlets, they have to, gain access to the Gaza Strip. They have to be able to sort of play nice with the Israeli government if they're going to be able to enter. People get a little wary of that. And at the same time, as we mentioned, a lot of foreign journalists are just barred from accessing Gaza in general. So it becomes much easier to find a reliable and sort of consistent stream of information coming from folks who are living there.
How are the reporters on the ground able to even do their job when many are not even allowed into the country?
Well, this is just another contributing factor to this sort of scarcity of information coming out of legacy outlets. The war in Gaza is the deadliest conflict for journalists in the last 30 years, which means that not only are folks who are sort of civilian journalists putting their lives on the line when they're running to rubble in their own neighborhood, but folks from international outlets are struggling to even maintain their own safety.
You also liken this to the Vietnam War, that what we're seeing on social media might be changing the perception of how we feel about the war. What's the parallel there?
Well, in the Vietnam War, that was really sort of the first time that, especially for Americans, images of the front lines were, they were plastered on the front of newspapers. They were on our television sets.
One South Vietnamese Army colonel committed suicide with his pistol in a downtown square.
It was really the first time that a lot of us got to see what the carnage of war actually looks like. And that was really a significant point when it came to shifting public opinion. Support for the war started to fall pretty dramatically. What we're seeing now is that younger folks, according to one poll, about 3/4 of people 18 to 29, are more closely in support of Palestinians and those in Gaza. And a lot of that has to do, again, with the fact that they can see the impact of bombings firsthand or, secondhand through their phones. The big difference, though, is, again, with the Vietnam War, a lot of that information, a lot of that visual media was coming straight from broadcast journalists. Whereas here, there's a sense that it's unfiltered, that the folks you're hearing from are, again, more like us than otherwise. And with that, there's a sense that there's a little bit more trustworthiness there.
But there have been deep fakes online, right? You can capture pictures, you can fake them, you can doctor them. How then can people who are turning to social media, to X or to Instagram or to TikTok, how can they use it responsibly if there really are no rules?
What I've been hearing from media experts is that basically the best way to do it is to stick with legacy outlets as sort of a foundation and to try and use what you're seeing on social media as a way to sort of get a deeper, more personal sense, but that Twitter and Instagram can't reliably be a primary source of information.
So you need both. You need the legacy outlets and the TikToks and the social media, and then you're trying to kind of blend the two to find basically your special brew of news?
This is where it gets tricky, is you have to sort of try to triangulate across not only different sources within traditional media outlets with their own biases, but trying to do so with folks who are, just posting and they don't necessarily have the backing of a larger corporate entity behind them.
You're right that this type of reporting is different than what the legacy brands do, but you choose to turn on a different news station. These are coming directly to your phone. What's the effect on people with that?
Well, one of the big things that I kept hearing from people is, frankly, it just gets exhausting. You're constantly seeing these graphic images. They're blended into your Instagram feed along pictures of your family and friends. And on the one hand, it's exhausting. But on the other hand, a lot of folks that I spoke to, that sort of feeling of helplessness that came from the inundation, that was what got them off the couch, and it's what got them to protests throughout Boston. And really, I talked to people who said that they keep the faces of those that they follow on Instagram in mind when they march through downtown.
Well, Daniel, please come back with more information on this story because it's fascinating and you do it very well. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
For Boston Globe Today interviews delivered straight to your inbox, be sure to sign up for our newsletter at bostonglobe.com/BGT.